without you if you let him. Like, who's to tell you that the Most High ain't gonna forgive you for what you done did? And that's another thing where we always set the boundaries of doing his job. Like, how can we do his job and we ain't done our job? It don't make no sense. So I think as brothers and sisters, Ox and Akwash, we should be more encouraging to each other. Friendships and marriages as well.
All right, shalom, fam. Shalom, sis. Crystal, Big Bruder. What's going on, bro?
Oh, I leave him. But then again, you in the same situation and you burn him. If you're not a weed, he gon' tear you apart. So be careful what you say, can be slide in the dark. A wise man slow to speak, but he still with that heart. A wise man slow to anger, refraining from dark. I don't want no Grammy, now I got King in my heart. I done died so much times I got holes in my heart. And I done cried so much times I get headaches from coughs. And I done died so much times I perish like the thought. Pride is a way of evil, don't settle for sin. So put your pride to the side, let it blow in the wind. So keep your eyes on the prize, you gon' sow it again. So keep your eyes on the side, you can search through the sin. Everybody doubted you, they gon' cheer when you win. Everybody shout at you, they gon' cheer for the win. Everybody laughed at you, you was running from sin. Everybody doubted you, they ain't trusting a friend. Everybody young and dumb, but who changing their life? Everybody put in work, but who sacrifice? Everybody waking up, but who living their life? If you ain't rocking with the guys, you ain't living it right. Oh, you ain't living it right. If you ain't rocking with your home, ain't living it right. If you ain't rocking with the guy, ain't living it right. If you ain't rocking with your guy, ain't living it right. If you're not a weed, he gon' tear you apart. So be careful what you say, can't be sliding in the dark. A wise man slow to speak, but he still with that heart. A wise man slow to anger, refraining from dark. I don't want no Grammy, now I got King in my heart. I done lied so much times, I got holes in my heart. And I done cried so much times, I get headaches from coughs. And I done died so much times, I perish like the thought. I'm a young man, now I'm a young king. And I got big dreams, the kingdom on me. The kingdom is within, cause I'm so golden. The spirit is within, the rock on me. The rock on me. Now I'm a free brew. I say I'm set apart, my mind is set apart. My people set apart, his people set apart. The evil's in the dark, the lighthouse shines the dark. Yeah. If you're not a weed, he gon' tear you apart. So be careful what you say, can't be tight.
Big Bruder Minister, shalom, brother. How's it going, man?
Wise man, son of anger, refraining from dark. I don't want no Grammy, now I got King in my heart. I done lied so much times, I got holes in my heart. I done cried so much times, I get headaches and coughs. And I done died so much times, I perish like the thought. Yeah.
Alright, we're gonna hit number 2 out of 3 and then we're gonna get started. Per usual. Praise y'all for another Barak Yom.
We can't hold grudges, storing riches in heaven, so that's way out of my budget. We no puppets, y'all pull strings around here, we rapping it look like mummies. We see it's coming, hearing the words depart from me is one thing I couldn't stomach. We in abundance, if we lose everything now, we'll gain everything plus double. I had no doctrine, choose life or death this day, but we had no option. We chose temperance, we chose forgiveness, love has no remembrance. We chose charity, they chose manipulation, but we chose clarity and long suffering. But we do choose peace and joy, I'm getting tired of recovering. I pray for that cross. Let us walk in our sufferings. I pray for that cross. Face for rails and buffetings. I pray for that cross. The mute lay out muzzle me. I pray for the cross. The wicked rule that troubles me. I pray for that cross. Yeah, I protect my innocence. I pray for that cross. I seek you with due diligence. I pray for that cross. I'm ready for my sentencing. Holy. I pray for that
Oh yeah, that way, that way. Brock Young, big brother Brock Young. I got my first day off today, so. But be safe at the 12, sir, per usual. These roads and the four-wheelers be crazy, you know.
Give us only our daily bread. Not just gon' fall for their greed. See fruit when you look at our trees. See you when you look at our deeds. Okay, I know I'm not perfect yet, but you know I'm on your team. On the cross you didn't beg, but I've been right there like please. This man they had no sin or God. All the while we watch you bleed. With the same blood I'm redeemed. God, I owe you all of me. Finally be all in one mind, having compassion for one another. Love is brethren as if you were born amongst each other. Be pitiful, be courteous, not rendering evil for evil, railing for railing, but kind of one's blessing. No one here unto lies your inheritance. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. Beware what you covet, cause you gon' leave here with nothing. Oh, if any man seems to be religious or cleansed, but can't control his own tongue, and his religion is vain. Oh Yahoo, oh Yahoo, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh Yahoo, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh Yahoo, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh Yahoo, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We the mind, we don't need no beans. Red line, I hit on my knees. Give us only our daily grind. Young just gon' fall for they grind. Okay, oh Yahoo, oh Yahoo, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh Yahoo, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
All right, I'm on. Let's see. We're gonna get one more last one playing, and then we're gonna pray in, and we're gonna get started. We're gonna get started with today. Yeah, we're gonna get started.
We just wanna be free. We just wanna be free. Oh, but show us your love. Show us your love. We just wanna be free. We just wanna be free. We need strength from above. Strength from above. We just wanna be free, 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 freedom come. We just wanna be free, 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 freedom songs. We just wanna be free. So much riders don't wanna walk the TV. I see my brother shot down, I see me. We just wanna be free. Love your neighbor as yourself and be free. Too much bloodshed, no it ain't easy. We just wanna be free. Lying politicians on the news. They gon' keep them sleep, gon' keep them snoozing. The riches of this world don't feel they loose. Never sell your soul in with that movement. We done made a covenant, we are. Walking purpose, knowing who we are. Freedom coming, promise to the stars. The world where war is at. Free, 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 freedom come. We just wanna be free, 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 freedom songs. We just wanna be free. Oh Father, where to blame? Oh Father, I pray we change. Oh Father, the world's so vain. Oh Father, please redeem us from these chains. Amen. La olam, give you praise, then chant the song. Through the woes, through the calm, in this moment and beyond, we wanna be free, just to serve you.
All right, I'm on. So, what's going on, fam? Another blessed Barak Yam. Um, Glad to see those in here coming through that's able to come through, and we're going to continue off of last week, kind of with the growth and humility thing. But thinking about the growth part, it was brought to my realization yet again as Yah reveals things that, when you admit the stumbling, it destroys the disbelief, right? Literally, when you realize and say you trip down, going down a path or something like that, and you end up tripping and you get up, it's like, nah, that's never happened. But then, you still got that disbelief. But if you realize that something was there that you had to get through, right? It destroys the disbelief at the same time, right? But before we get in too deep, we're gonna go before Yah in prayer, per usual. Yahweh, we thank you, say Tada Abba, for another Barak Yam. Tada for your strength and your mercy and your word. I ask that you, as you continue to cover us as we stay in your will, I pray that you use me in your way. The words of my mouth and meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. And strengthen me and encourage me knowing what's going on and things like that. And help this message get across with no distractions. Yeah, that's what we ask for in your Sham. Asham Yahava, Asham Yahashpai, Asham Ravak HaKodash, Aman, and Aman. All right. So, admit stumbling, destroy disbelief. Admit stumbling, destroy disbelief, right? So when I was looking at that picture now, I was looking through the source. I'm not going to give no free advertising, but looking through the source, and I saw this picture, and what stuck out to me was the stones, right? Because remember last week we were talking about the stumbling stone and the stumbling blocks, but that can either put you on the righteous direction or you could keep tripping over the same thing, right? But the thing with those stones is there's a hole through them. But there's one that doesn't have one, right? It seems like the ones that have the hole in there are some stumblings that you had to admit were there, but it's something that you got through. But it destroys disbelief that it can't be broken through, right? Because stumbling lets you know something is there, pretty much. It removes the disbelief of something not being there, literally, yet again, right? Last week, we were led to focus on pride and safety, and Ravak led me through this week thinking on it more and more. It came through an experience of a stumbling block, right? It came from a consequence of experiencing a stumble, like the continuing sequences of stumbling, like, because it was brought to me how oftentimes, giving out these lessons and stuff like that, it could be forgotten sometimes that there was still a point of missing the mark, right? There was still a point of sin. Like there was still a point of, even though you heard the end of it, that it was a, happy ending, as we say, but it was still a point of a sin at that point. And this is just a bit of encouragement as we're going out and teaching people and reaching out and stuff like that. It's speak through your testimony, That's been coming up a lot for me during the week, especially at the toil. Like the toil be giving out lessons more than I think the toil should be giving out lessons, right? But it's teaching through that. It's like I'll see people having a rough day, and they're like, you seem like you come in here with high energy every time, and I'm like, I don't. Not necessarily, but I push through, right? We know that Yah is time. Yah is outside of time, right? Essentially he is, but Yahweh is outside of time. So that means that there's a lot of things in time that we have to again go through. This is a lesson thing, and Shalom, Mark, Shalom, and going into that, it helped people out a lot because, I started opening up a little bit, and it helped me out a lot because I don't usually open up like that. but I'll tell people a little bit here and there, and it helped them get through. Like, it helped them come to me, and they'll be like, you know what, today's just a rough day. Cool, man. If you want to talk about it, talk about it. If not, if not, you know. But destroy the disbelief that there's nothing there to talk about, because at that point, Yahweh sends us through things for a reason, right? And then at that point, it's something that you went through in that moment that you're supposed to be teaching, right? That you're supposed to be speaking of in that moment that somebody else might be going through, right? As little as I miss my favorite show, you know. But stumbling it isn't ideal, right? You don't want to stumble, but it's important in the process, in context, Don't set yourself up for loss after loss, right? And as we get into today with chapter 7 of Jasher, we're going to be talking about Nimrod. And Nimrod, Nimrod, he started out righteous, He didn't just come out the womb on mess, you know what I mean? So there's a point of a stumble where he could have admitted, where I was reading in Jasher, and it talks about the garments that were put on, right? It was talked about the garments, and these were garments that they said was passed down from Adam and Eve when they left out of the garden. Now, we're gonna go into that a little bit more too, because that could be true, right? You could preserve skin and things of that nature. Could pass them down for generations. There were things that they did pass down, within a belief group, or a family or a household. Sometimes it was a ring. Sometimes, it's a piece of jewelry. Sometimes it was skins, But it was really something in that moment that Nimrod slipped up on, right? Nimrod, he thought for a second that these skins really meant more than what they really were, There's a lesson in that behind that. Now it's debatable if that's really, really true. As far as what I was researching, can't really say it was 100% true, but there's a lesson in that. There's a point where there was some courage and there was some righteous courage. All this going in line with admitting stumbling, destroying disbelief. Not admitting that brings out that fleshly courage. Admitting it brings out the righteous courage. I made a post about this a while ago, and it came back up again here, and it's going to come together too at the same time. But getting back on point, stumbling puts a "you are here" flag in your walk, right? And it's important for identification. It's your testimony. So this past week, did I shalom, Matt Bear, did I stumble? Yeah, But Yah will help you take those stumbling blocks and make them stepping stones. Praise Yah. Placing each down and remembering each lesson, right? Each lesson is necessary. It puts you in a certain direction to gain experience, right? Brings you all back to the point where you started to get back on track again, right? Where we stumbled, it's a point of turning around, right? It's a point of repenting. That's literally what that meaning means, right? It's a work of traveling at the same time you're stumbling, right? Still literally falling forward, falling backwards, falling to the side. As long as we get back on path, but you have to admit the stumble, and it destroys your disbelief little by little, because the more you admit you're stumbling, the more you depend on Yah, right? That's what we're teaching. That's what people help they need to realize, as we're bringing it out and about, bringing this word out, and going through life. Again, as we stumble, tell your story, give your testimony. Now, if it's just for you, it's just for you. But in that time, in that testimony, Shalom, Minister Tracy, in that time and in that testimony, there's somebody that needs to hear that, because every time I'm speaking on something, there's somebody that hears it that needed to hear it. Even if it's just one person that's halfway listening, it's still something. There's still an impact that needs to that's coming out of it. There's a reason that you're going through these things, right? It's not just to go through them. There's a lesson in all of it. There's something that every time we tell a story, it tells me, oh, I remember the time where I went through something similar. You see? So it's like everything has to happen in order, but it destroys the disbelief that there isn't a reason, that there isn't Yah behind the scene, right? It destroys the disbelief of others when they ask you, how did you get through it? I prayed and I kept walking. I woke up, I said, I said, Tada Abba for another rising, for another Barak Yam. I got myself together. Just like this rising. I mean, it's just, when you're going through a season of revealing and learning, it can, I mean, it can wear you out. I mean, it can wear you out, boy. I mean, it can have you like, I don't even know about today. Like I was sitting here, I would, I'll admit it. I'm going to admit some sin, slightly missing the mark, no matter how subtle it was. But I was sitting here looking like, do I really want to do this today? And then immediately I heard that voice, are you going to be a stumbling stone? Because you're over here saying everything that I, that you meditated me with, everything you're meditating with, and you're going to sit here and not do it. You're just going to sit here and say, you know what? No, I can't. I couldn't fade it. I could have faded. I looked, and that first song that came on, I think he said something to the lines of, how are we going to do his job if we don't do our job? And I had to get up. Like, that's why I was coughing in the beginning, because I was sipping my coffee trying to wake up. And, as I joke around, Yah said, you listening? I praise y'all for that, because as I'm going, it's meditating for my mind too. It helps me go through my mind and see different things and how we go through things and how we are in his way, right? It made me think of this too when I was meditating, right? We use that same information from stumbling, right, to get started again, if you think about it, right? But only the parts that's necessary, right? So, in other words, another lesson depending on the next lesson to then work to nurture for the next lesson, so on and so forth, right? With all these lessons traveling back and forth, there's a reactive nature in that, right? Stay with me, right? So that's like a way of travel. So as you're going through things, each lesson helping you spring forth to the next, helping you grab this thing from this lesson, this thing from that lesson, to put it together to go through for the next lesson, seeing what Yahweh needs you to see, the end vision, to see what he's reversing, the inversion, to see what he's reversing or changing up in that moment, destroying that disbelief little by little, disbelief being your fleshly courage, disbelief being that I think I'm hearing what I think I'm hearing, but you're not hearing what you think you're hearing. For that second, you might be like, yeah, things looking quite crazy right now. I think I'm just going to sit in this corner. Now, there's sometimes you got to take time. Yah shalom, sis. Yah shalom, Honorable SJ. But they got to take some time to sit to the side sometimes, right? But still realize the lesson in that, right? Praise Yah. Admit stumbling, destroy disbelief. But as these lessons go hand in hand with each other, traveling back and forth in this reactive nature, right? It kind of reminded me, my mind goes, as I tell y'all, it kind of reminded me of like the airlines of Ravak Hakodash, the Ravak Hakodash Airlines. General Yosef, what's going on? Shalom, shalom, brother. So on these airlines, right, you check in your baggage, but you can't carry it all with you, right? Just thinking about it, you can't carry it all with you, right? All the clothes and things you brought with you, right? These are things that come from lessons. These are things that you were wearing in that time, right? But there's only a specific part you could take as your carry-on, right? And then the plane takes off, right? And then there's a landing after the flight where you pick up again everything you brought with you, right? Catching the next flight, eventually going back home. This whole sequence of things, realizing that each thing that you go through is something that you kind of wear for a second. It's something that you had to remember wearing for the next thing, for the next trip, for the next way. It's like an airline thing, crossing through the airways, as Ravak HaKodash, like Adam walked with Ravak in the cool of the day, right? But there's also somebody else that be working in the airways, But each time, each bit of let's call it turbulence, right? We're going off the fly, as we say. But each bit of turbulence, it reminded you of something. Because I guarantee, well, in my mind, half the time when there's something traumatic that happened in my life, I can remember exactly what I was wearing, right? I can tell you from, I might can't tell you the shoes, but I could tell you the color combination of the clothes I had on, right? There's something that I remember about that. I can remember scraping my knees up and getting the biggest holes in my jeans and everything like that. My favorite jeans, matter of fact, back when I was wearing FUBU, right? In South Pole. But they were my favorite ones. They had the little paint design, a couple rips in them already, and then that one rip made the pant, But I remember stuff like that, and it's necessary. So don't try not to admit to stumbling because you're holding on to your disbelief, right? Um, that was what's been ringing in my head for the week. Because a lot of times coming on here again, it could seem like, I ain't got no problem. Well, I ain't gonna speak that over me, but it can't. It could seem like things aren't really what they are. So remember, even when anybody's teaching, they teach it from a place, and when they speak of their testimonies, they're coming from a point of missing the mark. It's still sin, right? So don't ever feel like you're not able to do it because you're supposed to do it. How does Yah do his work if we don't do our work? Now, this is again, admitting stumbling, destroying disbelief is again how we move like prophecy in a world full of programming, how we stay in the way, how we stay in the walk, how we stay on the mark, on the heading towards the top, the goal of this, right? We got to move with the conviction, right? That we're fulfilling a prophetic destiny, right? And then there's 4 stages as well of getting back up. There's a hearing stage, what Yah's trying to tell you. There's a speaking on it. There's a revelation of realizing, and then there's a declaration, right? The declaration is just my favorite part. I wish I could jump to that part every time, but that's not Yah's will, right? It'll be a lot easier. It'll make me a lot happier, but that's not the case a lot of times. And that's okay. That's okay. Because again, as we always hear, he doesn't give you anything you can't handle, right? Like that picture on there that stuck out to me. It's like, instead of stepping over it, no, we're going to break through it because that's what Yah does, Just like Yah told somebody to strike the rock too, right? Just get through it. You got to get through it, right? A wise man, a wise woman, a wise sister, a wise brother teaches grace, right? To teach suffering, but in a way that is able to be digested, right? Because the view of sickness is growth in a way. Your body's reacting to things, you're getting back up and over things and saying, all right, I know what to do to prevent that from happening again, right? Shalom, shalom, Auntie Marion. How's it going? Great to see you. But there's a lot of things you have to admit, right? But don't let your last thought be madness. Now, again, we're getting into Nimrod. I'm being led to make sure I keep throwing that in there. Keep in mind Nimrod, right? Nimrod again came out, didn't come out evil. He didn't come out messing up. He was righteous for a little bit, right? We're still post-flood, and as we see in Jasher, where this leaves off, actually chapter 6 talks about the flood and the sequence of that. Chapter 7 talking about Jasher or Yashar. That starts Nimrod out. So this part of chapter 7 in Jasher starts out at about chapter 10 of Genesis, right? So Nimrod again, he was at a point where he came up to these skins, right? And for those just coming in, those skins that they said in this in Jasher and Yashar, it says that they were passed down. They were skins of Adam and Eve, where they were sent out the garden. They were given, they were clothed, right? In context. So when they had these skins, they said they were being passed down, and it was a thing that it wasn't seem like it was hidden right. And I'm thinking, okay, well, skins could possibly be passed down, right? Skins could they could be preserved. There was things that was passed down generation to generation to generation to generation. These could be one of the things. But either way, when Nimrod put these on, the analogy or the metaphor behind the analogy is what I'm seeing is that there's a point where that self courage took over the righteous courage, right? Because it says that Yahweh gave him strength as well, but he put on the garments as well. So like this life is, we get a chance to do this and we get a chance to do the other. We have a chance to make a choice, right? We can admit the stumble, like, man, I was getting kind of high-minded with this, destroy the disbelief in Yah, or vice versa, right? Going back, before we get into that more, but he gives you a gift. On that note, he gives you a gift according to your capability. That's your calling for whatever moment. That's your test for whatever moment. That's something that you had to remember, recall sometimes for a lesson, right? For a teaching, for somebody to say, hey, I'm having this rough day. Matter of fact, Yahweh sent me through something like this a while ago, apparently for this moment, and help them destroy their disbelief, because that's all it essentially is. Out here nowadays, is even with people searching for an answer. Shalom, big sis. Even with people searching for an answer, it's still disbelief. We could give them the answer all the time. We can show them all the time, but we're battling their disbelief. Yeah, shalom, Hawanda. How's it going, sis? Right? That's what we're going to. Again, it's in that moment, it's a courage versus righteous courage thing, right? It's a spiritual relapse. I made a post about this again a while ago. It was a spiritual relapse. Nimrod hit a crazy spiritual relapse. Things were going pretty decent. Not saying that there wasn't any worshiping in the land of other idols and things like that, but Nimrod really, really locked in on it. He really pushed it. He had a chance where he could not have done it, but he started having that high-minded thing. He started going with that fleshly courage that canceled out the righteous courage. It canceled out the righteous counsel, because the righteous courage counsels you in your fleshly courage, right? You see how everything still works together? There's a reason for every step, right? So spiritual relapse, it's suffering from deterioration after a period of improving, right? It's becoming less intense in the strength or the way of Yah, or what he has you going through. Taking your eye off him for just a moment. That's really what it is. We got to call it what it is. Even me is when I'm struggling with things, it's because I'm literally trying to take my eye off of him. Just like coming into today, and I was staring, looking at the wall, like, I don't know. I know one thing, I wasn't looking at him. I wasn't looking for him in that moment. So how am I supposed to get delivered from a thought or from a mindset if I'm not looking at him? Right? Just that quick. That's how these things can change. That's how things can get you caught up in the sauce, right? No matter what it is, it's a reason for it, and we're undefeated against everything that comes against us. And we stay with what comes with us, and that's Yahweh, right? Now, I was going back through the video, because I couldn't remember exactly what I said on TikTok, but I went back through and I caught it, and it really goes in line with Nimrod, because I was sitting there, I was hitting a rut, because I was like, you know what? We got to have precepts. We got to have, there's got to be a coming together. Can't just be out here just talking, and not have no word. So, but usually how these lessons come about, I get a whole lesson, and then there's the word, you get a whole, you get beat up out here, and then you got to go to the word. That, that's just mess. Nah, but I was led back to this video for this reason, and I praise y'all, because I needed to hear that too in that time, because it's a 3-stage thing. It's an emotional, a mental, and a physical when it comes to spiritual relapse, when it comes to righteous courage versus fleshly courage. That I that says I got it, but that righteous thing that says you ain't even in control. So, because if you're trying to control things, you got your hand on too much sometimes, right? We got to control our eye, keep our eyes on Yah. But the spiritual relapse is suffering from deterioration, and this comes from an emotional, a mental, and a physical stage. An emotional desire for a mental stage of war leading to a physical sidestep, right? The desire to be in a stage of war of sidestepping, essentially, you know? And it led me to Psalms 26. We're going to hit there real quick. Psalms 26, probably should have told y'all earlier, that's where we start off. Um, but I was hopping back on in the work, in the groove, and, you know. But we're going to start at Psalms 26, all right? Psalms 26, and this is where it hit in Psalms 27 too, but we're really going to read Psalms 26 and what this says, because it says a lot. So does the word period, but you know, different periods, different times, different emphasis on different things, right? But it hits, especially when dealing with Nimrod, as we'll see again. And we're gonna read Psalms 26, the whole Psalm 26, the whole chapter, the whole division of Psalm 26, and then we're going to go to Joshua chapter 7, and we're going to start reading, right? So Psalms 26, again, talking about that courage versus righteous courage, right? In that process of how you're coming out of that emotional desire to be in a mental stage of war, leading to a physical sidestep. Because the longer you war, the longer you go back and forth with Yah, you know we're not winning that tug of war anyway. But it's the longer that we're sitting there going back and forth, knowing what he's leading us to, feeling what he's leading us to, but still trying to look away. Still trying to, I know, I hear you, but, this don't look too bad over here either, you know? But that's what happened to Nimrod. Nimrod saw his power. He saw himself being strengthened in Yah and forgot it was in Yah. And in that moment, that fleshly courage took over and sent us right back on a thing that we just tried to get back out of. Just like Cain came out of Adam, Nimrod came out of Noah, all coming out of Adam, pre-flood, post-flood, but still the same thing. Yet again, repeating itself, right? There was so much in the beginning. You'll see in Jasher chapters 1, 2, 3, somewhere around there. You'll see that there was a great famine in the land, right? There was a great point. There was a long period of time where it doesn't really say when it started, but there was a long period of time where they went from the curse to the corruption, right? And then man intensified the corruption. It was bad enough that we already had to till the ground, but what man decided to do, mixing with these, many different spirits at that time, a lot of different weird creations coming about, a lot of things that shouldn't be happening because they should not have been mixing with man, right? But these things, there was a great famine brought about by these actions, right? They worship idols as well. They looked for other things as well. They fell in love with the imagery, right? It was a point where they were doing some messed up stuff to try to make people stay the way they were, so they wouldn't go through life changes as they're giving birth, right? That's the best way I could put it. But it was a lot that was going on, and there was a flood for that reason, right? And we were doing pretty decent. Not saying that there was no other worshiping of idols or things like that of that nature, because as man, woman, bred and multiplied, there was things that came about naturally. But Nimrod, having his position and coming out of a bloodline, had a lot of influence. There we go. That's the word. Had a lot of influence, and that influence, it turned everything into a way that destroyed a lot, even down to the language, right? Shem still being the language of authority, right? Still being Hebrew, right? Shalom, children of the Most High, shalom, shalom, and everything coming together. Now, Psalms 26, right? Sorry, there's some weird activity going on outside. But Psalms 26, right? Because coming together with, oh man, where was I? The Great Famine, Nimrod. Well, essentially the same thing was going on either way. There was a repeating of things out of there we go out of Noah coming from post flood, right? And there's a time where things were coming. There we go to that revival. There was a time where there were people already doing some wild things, but Nimrod took his position and he intensified it with his position because he was in a place where he was a mighty hunter. He was mighty. He was great in the will of Yah. You'll see here, he still sacrificed to Yah, right? But when he did that, in that moment, he got caught up. In that moment, he got twisted around. But there was a point where he could have admitted that the stumbling was there and it could have destroyed the disbelief. The disbelief being what he led his people into, right? The disbelief being what they had going on, right? Because if he would have admitted that stumble, if he just would have admitted like, yo, hey, I know I said this and that. I know y'all look to me and everything like that, but I shouldn't have led y'all that way. It's not me, it's Yah. You know, there's a lot of things that he could have been saying, but he encouraged the heart of man. Now the heart can be deceitful, right? We'll see that later on in chapter 7, and that's what he intensified, not the spirits, intensified the heart, right? The heart will have you battling with some things, okay? Now, Psalms 26. We're going to get there now. Praise Yah. Praise Yah to Da Abba for working this out. So, Psalms 26. When it comes to that righteous courage versus fleshly courage, right? One hindering the other, one encouraging the belief in stumbling. Belief in what you stumbled on. Because if you admit stumbling, you work towards getting over the disbelief, destroying disbelief, right? Because I refuse not to believe in my Father. I refuse not to believe that he can get me through anything. But there's a process because there's a stumbling. I got to wipe some dust off my feet, right? And just bringing this back again because, you know, just because we go through this once and it's revealed to us once doesn't mean that we just leave it there. You know, even I, like I would say all the time, these videos and things like that and posts, I go back to them and I look for them too, right? I'll go back through and listen to the lesson, even though I don't like listening to me talk. But I'll go back and listen to it because there's some things that I'm like, yeah, there was something about this day, or there's a title about this thing. There's a reminder about this thing. That's why we put these things out there, because not only to reach others, but for ourselves. Like, this is a counseling session. As I'm talking to y'all, I'm talking to y'all. Y'all's letting me know through Ravak what to, you know, say and how to say about it, you know, things like that. Yeah, truth doesn't have feelings. It don't. Truth don't have no cuts, but it will cut, you know? But it's a thing that it's therapeutic, right? That's why I really love this. You know, it's not to try to gain anything or this and that. It's just, you know, Yah has us speaking. We're supposed to be speaking these things. And what puts us ahead of others is that we know why. We know where to go. Even though we got to get beat up and then search for some word while we beat up and all battered up and bruised, you know. But we still able to make it through, right? Just like them rocks in the pictures. You know, sometimes a lot of people just think about getting over the rock. Nah, Yah sends us through it. So that way the next person that come behind us just simply could go through it, you know. We'll tell them about it. We'll tell them exactly what this rock was doing. But it was broken up and made it to stepping stones. Oh, praise. So Psalms 26, there's a process of getting back, right? And that requires a judgment, right? There's a judgment. He loves you. That's why he does that. Yeah, that's pretty much as deep as that needs to go. That's just what it is, right? Verse 1 of Psalms chapter 26, it says, "Judge me, O Yahweh, for I have walked in mine integrity. I have walked in my fleshly courage," right? No, excuse me. I have walked in mine integrity, the original intent, right? So walking in that, realizing that there's a stumbling stone, right? But it destroyed the disbelief. But now that I see what you're trying to send me through, right? Praise Yah. I have trusted also in Yahweh, so I shall not slide. That's the end of verse 1. Verse 2, examine me Examine, put me under that microscope, break it down. Show me exactly what I did, piece by piece, stone by stone, pebble by pebble, and let me know how to walk this thing out, right? Improve me or test me, right? Try my range, my attachment to it, how strong I am to it, and if if I'm still holding on to that struggle, if I'm really relying on you, right? Test my range in my heart. Because again, what does that heart do? It can have you going many different ways. But you're saying, now I'm ready. I see what you told me about. Now, next one. Give me the next one. Verse 3, for thy loving kindness, your kind of love is before mine eyes. I have seen exactly what you were trying to say and show me. Right? Yeah, move me from my place of comfort to test my resolve. That part. Let me show you, Pops. Let me show you. I got you. Right? Second part of verse 3, and I have walked in thy truth. Thy truth is the love. It's the Yahweh Shalom. It's the Shalom at Yahweh. It's the peace that's found towards and given towards Yahweh, but it's Yahweh's peace at the end of the day. Right? It's his love. Yahweh Ahava. Yahweh is love. Right? Verse 4, I have not sat with vain persons. That means you got to get up from that table. Neither will I go with disassemblers, those that try to break up these things. Shalom, shalom, Pastor Don. How's it going, brother? There's a two-part thing about that. I have not sat with vain persons. It reminds me of Psalms chapter 1, verse 1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. Right? Coming again to Psalms 26, verse 4. I have not sat with vain persons. I got up from out of there. Right? These people that say, nah, there ain't nothing you got to worry about for real, for real. No, it is something. It's something because it happened. Oh, just give it a yeah, it'll be okay. I did. But there's something else he needs me to do. Right? I've heard these things. So you believe in the Most High so much, why are you worried? I'm not worried. I'm working. I'm not worried. I'm working. That one hit right there. But there's a getting up. There's a going from that process, right? Because I will not go with disassemblers, those that try to break apart my mindset of thinking, right? When I have my soul attached to the righteous spirit of the Most High, right? I'm not getting attached to that spirit because that spirit breaks up some stuff. Just like in the beginning of time when all those messengers came and mixed with the people, right? Yeah, we don't move enough that way. Like when all that was mixing, right? They were disassembling a great work. There was something great put together. Now, twofold, right? That courage and fleshly courage is a lot of going back and forth, and there's a lot of losing out here, right? But there's a lot of winning, and everybody can win, because we the best. No, just playing. But my bad, Salakia. But it's a process, right? Verse 6, I will wash my hands in the innocency, so I will compass thine altar, O Yahweh, right? I will wash my hands of the vain things. I will wash my hands of the things that I've gotten into. I'll wipe the dust up off my feet, right? So that way I'm able to compass or come about the altar of Yahweh, right? Literally, it's a practice to wash your hands before you open the word. Before sacrifice and things like that, and back in the day, there was a cleansing process, right? That's the innocency. The innocency is removing that fleshly courage. That innocency is remembering who we are in original intent. Like in verse 1, I have walked in mine integrity, the one that's been given to me. The righteous one, not the one that has been chopped up and tossed around and tossed about and things like that. Just like with the laws, the Hebrews never said the laws ended, so who did? We can say definitely for sure our people would not have said that. So who would have said that? It's just breaking it down like that and destroying the disbelief, destroying the middle part. That middle part they try to mess up so much. I'm washing my hands of all that, and I'm gonna teach them how to wash their hands too, because apparently it's too much madness going on. And apparently, I mean, we see it now. Not to get political, because I try to stay away from that. Um, I just concentrate on bettering myself, so that way, I could be not of the system as much as possible. Give me some land, not a nice, crazy, nice place, but land, so I can grow my own food. Eventually, if I gotta find a way to pay an electric bill or something like that, or I could figure something else out. I don't know. Haven't gotten that far yet. But my disbelief is destroyed that it can't happen. I know that part. I've gotten that far, right? I washed my hands of that old thinking. Verse 7, that I may publish or proclaim with the voice of thanksgiving, right? With the voice of thanksgiving, the voice that shows, yes, sir, that voice that shows that you've been through something. That voice that's fasting from the wickedness, right? Giving thanks to the Father, right? Basically, all in all, telling of the wondrous works. Because a lot of times it just doesn't make sense. Like, even when you're in the middle of it, in the thick of it, you're like, man, there's no way. Even though we've said that plenty of times before, and every single time there's been a way made. I don't know why we keep saying it either, but I say the same thing. I'll be the same way. Like, man, this does not look possible. Like, why is it always something? Well, why not? Because if it ain't nothing, that means I've been left alone, and that gets lonely. You feel me? But yeah, that part. But yeah. Verse 8, Yahweh, I have loved the habitation of thy house. I love it here. Papa Ben him, right? I have loved the habitation of thy house, the righteous house, the Ba'it, right? The Aleph Ba'it. I love Ba'it, the second character, the second Hebrew character, the righteous house that we come out of. I love it here. The temperature is fine. It keeps me cool. 98.6 degrees in all situations. I can hear you. I can see things. I'm not so dismayed. I'm not so thrown off, right? it's great here. I don't want to leave. I don't leave, but you just send me some places knowing I'm right here extended from the house, as we go about doing this work as he called us to do. Because we're really special. Like, really realize this. Like, I was thinking about this. I don't remember what day this week, but it's important to remember too, because we really are a peculiar people. Like, there's people really out here lost in the sauce. Like, I'll be out going about, and I can really see the difference. Not boasting myself up, but confidently, I can see the difference in the thinking, in the going, in the how people act. The way they look at me funny when I be telling the people behind the counter thank you and have a blessed one, and I'm looking at them the same way, like, why aren't you saying that? But not in a petty way, but it's just, you can really, like, we really are different. Like, these people are really, but it hurts my heart at the same time. So I could feel, like, imagine how the Messiah was being about, knowing what he knew about people, seeing what people were going through, seeing what they would go through, because remember, he's of the Father, right? Knowing all these things, loving these people all in the same, and then being hurt by it at the end of the... Well, that's kind of hard to say now, thinking about it. Because he would have understood everything going on, right? We got to watch what we say, catching that, sin. You got to catch that kind of stuff, but it's a great work that he really did, to know them things and seeing them things and knowing that there's such a difference that people could just say yes. Just say, I'm here. Just say, here am I. Just like Samuel told oh man, that is messed up. Just like Samuel told, I forgot. Like when Yah comes to you in a dream, say, here am I, right? That's all you had to do, right? His gracious and merciful, even knowing us before forming us that way, because he had to know. We were in mind in the beginning of this time being made, right? Everything that we would go through, knowing what would destroy us and what wouldn't, right? All right, 1 second. Because I wasn't talking just then, but I was reading y'all's comments. um, I don't know why it always gets to this point. I don't know why. I would get off the Wi-Fi. Um, Shalom, sis, shalom. But if I get off said Wi-Fi, it'd probably be worse. I'm not even gonna fib to you. Um, I mean, how is it now? Is it still pretty bad or is it pretty decent? Because I was pausing, I wasn't continuously talking either. You're talking though. Okay. All right. Well, we gonna Oh, got you. Okay. Yep. All right, not moving. See, I'm trying to be serious, Bruder. No, like back in the day when you found that perfect spot for reception, it's like, oh, got it. Oh man. But again, I did record these, so the playback is all the way through. But praise y'all. Praise y'all. I needed that. Oh. Where were we at? Psalms 26 verse 9. Um that way, that part. That's it. Like we say sometimes too, General Joseph, like, hey, sometimes I don't be making sense half the time anyway, so some things you might not want to hear. No, I'm kidding. I kid. No, I don't kid. Ain't no goat. But anyway, Psalm 26 verse 9. Psalm 26 verse 9. Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life. I reckon that's okay. Nor my life with bloody men, right? I don't want to be over there with them. I need a separation. Praise God for this move yet again. It separated me from a lot of people. Love them, I do, but I could see a lot was being drained from me. A lot was being taken off. You know, a lot was being. There was a lot more being pulled on me. Like even to the point where it would show on my face sometimes. Like I would get rest and my eyes would still just be baggy. Like it was just. And then when you get to the point of realizing what the change needs to be, and then you have to wait on the change, like that part right there. I mean, knowing that there's a change, knowing you know what you need to do. Like, okay, now, y'all, let me go. No, no, no. You still gotta wait and be patient because he needs to make sure that you know that at the end of it all, because I'm very strong-minded, I would talk my way through anything. And with that being part of me, it takes a lot, and it has to be a lot of breaking down, like drastically, for me to really realize sometimes, all right, y'all, you got it. Because sometimes I'm thinking, well, I know this about the word, I know this about the word, I know this about the word, but that's where discernment comes in. That's where that discernment comes in, because you know the word, but sometimes that's hindering you up too. Yeah, it's all about the journey, no matter how rough. Yeah, it's all about the journey. Um, it's thinking about it, it's the scripture, it's the scroll. Yeah, back to the remembrance of the true Ahava, the true love, right? It's a movement. There's a movement of emotions, there's a movement of mental stages, there's a movement of physicalities. Literally. There's a movement. 1 second, got a puzzle. 1 second. Um and that's weird. It was the It was the what is it? The monument, the Washington Monument, right? On Juneteenth. But I'm just gonna leave that alone. Um let's go to the second half of verse 9, right? He's allowing us to go through it to see if we give him glory and be obedient. Exactly. He needs to hear it. He needs to hear it again to that, sis, because I'll be so strong minded that I would fight it, and I would just be like, well, you made me for this. I'll be all right. I'm gonna keep going. But he wants to say, no, just stop. Just stop. Just stop. Shalom, way of purpose. Just stop and hold on for a second. I'm trying to let you see something. You know? Like when I used to do my little nephew, when he would come swinging at me, and you hold their forehead, and they'll keep swinging anyway until they get tired and just stop, even though they realize they're not going nowhere, no matter how much they swing. Right? That's me sometimes. Not saying it's anybody else. I'm not talking about nobody, but that's me sometimes. Right? Um, that's just the way it is. Verse 10: In whose hands mischief, and their right hand is full of bribes. Right? So that's going with verse 9. Let me see. Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with bloody men. And you see that semicolon because that means it relates to the other part. That's why I went back to verse 9, because verse 10 didn't start with that. So that's why, that's another study tip. It relates to it. That's what that semicolon means. So basically saying, in whose hands is mischief. Like one hand, they're showing one thing with one hand, but the other hand is hid with their intention. Some call them monitoring spirits, right? It's realizing that a lot of that was happening too, and it was from people that I saw the best in, and Yahweh said, "Stop doing that." It's something that you had to realize that, hey, people are showing you things, and you're trying to fight through, and even though you have the heart of who I need you to have the heart of, I don't need you to do that part because that's not your part. Your part, you might be stopping them from a lesson. You might be stopping them from seeing something. I'm here for you. But just like me, I'll be in a place where I remember in the time, I haven't been here recently, praise God, but I remember in the time I shouldn't have been getting help. The help I was giving back the evil tenfold. Right? It was a point where I was casting pearl before swine, essentially. I was mixed up because there was one showing, I got you. They were showing me loyalty, right? That was something I was looking for a lot because it was real in this world. Again, I put myself into rough situations, and in those rough situations, I would just be like, "Yo, loyalty will be smart right now." They say, "All right, I got your loyalty, but there's always a catch to it." In the world, y'all know how it is. There's always a catch to that. There's always yeah, but you got to do this, this, and this, right? Not showing what's really in their hand. Only showing one hand half the time. That's a warning sign too. But verse 11. But as for me, I walk in mine integrity, original intent. Redeem me and be merciful unto me, right? No test, no testimony. That part. Talk about it. See, I had to go through that to talk about it. There's a lot of lessons in that help me to this day, right? Verse 12, my foot standeth in an even place. In the congregations will I barak Yahweh, will I bless Yahweh. In the congregations, in the assemblies, in the getting together, where I meet my people at, wherever that is, here, as we assemble together, just for some Bible study. That's it. Just hey, I went through this week. Somebody might need to hear it, or at least one part of this, even though I'm learning how to talk a lot. It's something somebody might need to hear, That's this. That's this. Now, we're gonna go into Jasher now, right? We're gonna go into Jasher chapter 7. We're gonna start reading. We're gonna read until about 2 o'clock. It says chapter 10. We'll probably be able to do it, but Ravak led, we're still gonna go, right? So with this, re-summarizing Psalm 26 again, when it's coming to Nimrod, getting back focused on Nimrod, centering around that, and it's courage versus righteous courage. Psalms 26 was reminding us that walking in the original intent, the natural original intent, against the disassemblers, right? Washing our hands in innocency so we may compass around the altar of Yah yet again. Fasting from wickedness, giving thanks, right? Saying Tada Abba, right? Having our name cleared of nonsense, separating by repenting and pressing forward through the stumble, admitting and destroying disbelief at the same time, right? To not be a stumbling block, but sometimes a rock of offense, right? Now, what happens with this courage, as we're about to get into Nimrod seriously now. So that courage, what I noticed about Nimrod is that he had the ability to face danger, right? In pain and uncertainty without fear, right? But he got too overconfident. The mind will manipulate. Y'all will check you real quick when you live in that manipulation. That's facts. That's a big fact. Because when you're manipulating something, you're changing it from an original intent. Just like we were saying earlier with the laws. Like when they bring up these laws, it really baffles me sometimes how people don't break it down. So the Hebrews believed in these laws 120,000%. They would not have said that laws are abolished. So who would have said that? Simply put, somebody outside of culture, somebody misinterpreting, manipulating, right? Now you got all these people's hands dirty. Now you done put that little bit of seed in there, just like Nimrod did. He intensified the worship because he showed himself mighty in the will. Like it starts off, he was about that life with Yah, right? Until he got taken over. Out of Adam came Cain. There was a flood, post-flood, from Shem, Ham, and Japheth, or Yapach, right? Came Nimrod. And what was the ending of Cain? Off by his lineage. What was the ending of Nimrod? Off by his lineage. You'll see here that it was Esau. Esau out in the field hunting. Then he ran back, tired, asking for lentil, fearing for his life. Sounds familiar, right? That was pretty cool when I saw that. So when not cool with the events of things, but yeah, Esau, yeah, he did that. And that's why he was so tired before the birthright situation, right? That's why. Like he just did this thing knowing Nimrod is well known, and he done took the garments off him, right? So this says, they still take it with a grain of salt because a lot of things were put in here to try to make it a folklore story, but there's a lesson in it, right? But it, like we say, cannot confirm nor deny. Sometimes if you don't know, don't speak on it. And I can't really get closer to that. I can say that it's said here. Tried to find out if it was true. It's true in the Yashar version, but it's not version, but in Yashar. But and it kind of makes sense in time. People did pass down things. They passed down rings, necklaces, garments, preserved things. Some things make sense, but we could say this: the same thing happened twice. It'll be your own people. Salah. Now let's get into chapter 7. Big Bruder, Uncle Darius. Shalom, Big Bruder. Shalom, shalom. All right, now let's get to reading. Jasher chapter 7. Again, this starts about Genesis chapter 10, I believe it was. Yeah, Genesis chapter 10 is where this starts out just about. But we're going to read Jasher chapter 7 and see what happened in Nimrod. Probably keep on going through Jasher or Yashar. Keep on going through. As we were supposed to before, but things change up, right? As we were saying before. So been led back on track. Listen to Ravah. So chapter 7 of Jasher. So the beginning of that, verse 1 to about, we're going to pick up in verse 23. So the beginning of that lists the names of the sons of Noah, right? Or Noah, right? Same as in chapter 10 of Genesis, same names, going through all the way down to Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth. I'm going to use modern terminology. Shem, Ham, Japheth, right? And how they had their descendants, right? So we get down to verse 23. And it says, and Cush, son of Ham, son of Noah, took a wife in those days in his old age, and she bore a son. And they called his name Nimrod, saying, at that time the sons of men began to rebel and transgress against Elohim. Also learned at this time they would have called him Shaddai, right? I was about to say never mind, but I realized we went backwards from last week. I'm like, hold on, Moses, but that didn't happen yet. But yeah, it says at that time the sons of men again began to rebel and transgress against Elohim, right? Again, talk about that worship, that courage, that fleshly courage, righteous courage. Keep that in mind as we read. And it says, and the child grew up, and his father loved him exceedingly, for he was a son of his old age, right? Had him at an old age. He was very happy about this, right? And the garments of skin which Elohim made for Adam and his wife, right, when they went out of the garden, were given to Cush. For after the death of Adam and his wife, the garments were given to Enoch, son of Jared. And when Enoch was taken up to Elohim, he gave them to his son Methuselah. And at the passing on of Methuselah, Noah took them and brought them to the ark, right? And they were with him until he went out of the ark. And in their going out, Ham stole those garments. So pause right there. You kind of see before, even with this skin and garment thing, right? Let's get down to the principle of this thing, what the lesson is of it, right? There was some teaching and a passing down of something, right? That's what we're going to break it down to. There was a teaching and passing down of something, right? It started out just fine because we see Enoch, we see Methuselah. Enoch was ascended, was taken up. He didn't pass over, and he was taken up, right? Methuselah preached with Noah, right? So it was a righteous thing at one point that it was being passed down. Then all of a sudden you get to verse 27, it says, and in their going out, Ham stole those garments. So it seemed like something changed up right there. There was something that was birthed right there that was probably passed down after this before, right? Right? Yeah, from his father Noah, and he took them and hid them from his brothers. And when Ham begot his firstborn Cush, he gave him the garments in secret, and they were with Cush for many days. And Cush also concealed them from his sons and brothers. Why? And when Cush had begotten Nimrod, he gave them these garments through his love for him. And Nimrod grew up, and when he was 20 years old, he put on those garments, right? And Nimrod became strong when he put on those garments. And Elohim gave him might and strength. I paused there for a reason on purpose. So it says Nimrod became strong when he put on the garments. Started believing in something too much. Might have started idolizing it a little bit, what it shouldn't have been. Kind of how they were showing with these garments. Passing down after what was it? Cush stole them, right? There was a changing up in things, right? Again, breaking down the lesson of it. The garments thing being true, that part. There's not really any proof about that. There's something that it makes sense. It's consistent on one end. It's not said in the 66 books, but we know that Jasher goes into it deeper than other things, right? So it's kind of, you really have to have your discernment on 10,000 fold when you're reading these things. So look for the message in it more so, because anything. So we got to kind of be careful with that. Things that are input, there's a lesson in them. In context, if y'all get what I mean, that could be twisted up many different ways, but in context, there's a lesson in that, right? But again, it's possible because traditionally things were passed down. Even some might have a family ring. Again, things are passed down. There's heirlooms that's passed down. Some not emphasize it. Some worship it more than others, idolize it a little bit, but there's a changing up of that, right? There's a changing up of that when it came from one side to the other. When Cush stole them and passed down something, Nimrod put on the garments and got high-minded, got started poking his chest out, right? And Elohim gave him strength. But yeah, even culture, right. Yahweh gave him the strength to do these things. But he probably thought it was the garments. You see why there was a comma, there's an and right there, right? Nimrod became strong when he put on the garments, right? Pause right there. And Elohim gave him might and strength. So there we got that courage, and we got that Chabah courage implanted for us to decide. There's a point of stumbling that can happen, but once you realize what's going on, it destroys disbelief. That's how that came about for me through this week. Studying this, seeing where we were going today, right? It was a mighty hunter in earth, in Arat, right? He was a mighty hunter in the field, and he hunted animals. He built altars, and he offered the animals on them before Yahweh. Verse 31. So therefore, he's still showing respect to Yahweh, right? He's still giving all praise to the Most High at this point. But there's a chance of change right there. There's a point of change, right? Verse 31. And Nimrod strengthened himself. Nimrod strengthened himself, right? And he rose up from among his brothers, and he fought the battles of his brothers against all their surrounding enemies. That righteous, not righteous, that fleshly courage starts getting built up. You know, even when I used to play basketball back in the day, if I win 3 games in a row, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna win the 4th one. I start getting a little confident. I start boasting a little bit. Start calling myself LeBron James, you know. But verse 32, and Yahweh delivered all the enemies of his brothers into his hands, and Elohim prospered him from time to time in his battles. See, giving you a chance to see that, right? And he reigned on Arad. So Elohim prospered him. He probably thought it was them garments from time to time in his battles, and he reigned on Arad. Gave him all what you should have as a descendant of the righteous bloodline, right? As a descendant of the righteous culture. You should have these things, right? You should be indulging in the blessings that Yahweh has for you, but don't get it confused. Doesn't mean you don't stumble, right? Don't mean that there's something you got to realize. You got to destroy the disbelief that these garments are giving you something that it's not really giving you, right? In context, garments is anything that you put on. You know, thinking about that is what you wear. Just like we a while ago we did a lesson on the Babylonian garment that coming out of Jericho, right? Achan took those garments he wasn't supposed to, right? Started up a whole lot of mess, right? But back into here, verse 33. Therefore, it became current in those days when a man ushered out those that he trained up for battle, he would say to them, like Elohim did to Nimrod. So everybody been knowing, right? Like Elohim did to Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter in the earth and who succeeded in the battles and prevailed against his brothers, that he delivered them from the hands of their enemies. So may Elohim strengthen us and deliver us this day. And when Nimrod was 40 years old, at that time there was a war between his brothers and the children of Japheth, so that they were in the power of their enemies. And Nimrod went out at that time, and he assembled all the sons of Cush and their families, about 460 men. And he hired also from some of his friends and acquaintances about 80 men. And he gave them their hire, and he went with them into battle. And when he was on the road, Nimrod strengthened the hearts of the people. See that part? Nimrod strengthened the hearts of the people that went with them. And he said to them, do not fear, neither be alarmed, for all our enemies will be delivered into our hands, and you may do with them as you please. It looks like he was missing some type of reverence to Yah in there somewhere, right? That's part of the battle cry too, right? Verse 37, and all the men that went there were about 500, and they fought against their enemies, and they destroyed them and subdued them. And Nimrod placed standing officers over them in their respective places. And he took some of their children as security, and they were all servants to Nimrod and to his brothers. And Nimrod and all the people that were with him turned homeward. And when Nimrod had joyfully returned from battle, after having conquered his enemies, all his brothers, together with those who knew him before, assembled to make him king over them. We heard about that story before, right? That didn't work out too well with Saul after a while. But we see how this started and where this came from. Didn't end very well. Let's keep going. And they placed the regal crown on his head, and he set over his subjects and people princes, judges, and rulers, as in the custom among kings. True. But in context of culture. Verse 41, and he placed Terah, the son of Nahor, as the prince of his host. And while he was reigning according to his heart's desire, after having conquered all his surrounding enemies, he advised with his counselors to build a city for his palace. Right? And they did also. Verse 43, and they found a large valley opposite to the east, and they built him a large and extensive city. And Nimrod called the name of the city that he built Shinar. right? Or Shinar, right? For Yahweh had vehemently shaken his enemies and destroyed them, right? And Nimrod dwelt in Shinar, and he reigned securely, and he fought with his enemies, right? And he subdued them, and he prospered in all in his battles. It keeps. I had to go back to that part where it says he named the city after for what Yahweh did, right? But it's like trying to cover it up, right? Covering up with the way you're acting and the way you're going towards your people with the name, right? But it's not always in the right authority of what you're doing, even though you try to call it that. Um, that's just what I got from that. I see a lot of that nowadays, especially how they take our culture and twist it up and use it in many things, making people promise on the scroll, but not living by the scroll, but giving some type of reputation to it and saying it's that one nation under, but it's not that, right? It's not that at all. It's a cover up. It's a cover up for your righteous, for your fleshly courage, right? It's a throw off of the righteous courage, right? Let's keep going. Um, Verse 45, and all the nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they gathered themselves to him, right? And they bowed down to the earth, to Arat, and they brought him offerings, and he became their Lord and King. And they all dwelt with him in the city of Shinar, and Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel. And all the earth was of one tongue and words of union, but Nimrod did not go in the ways of Yahweh, right? And he was more wicked than all the men that were before him from the days of the flood until those days. So again, remember how we were talking about the flood before? How there was a corruption in the land to the point where literally you could not till. There was a point where no food came. Many people moved on or were off in that process, right? Adam, you can see that famine didn't end even after him being buried. That famine was still going, right? Um, so even more wicked than all of that was going on, with all the mixing of the messengers, with all the mixing of with them with man. So you're telling me it's more wicked than all that, right? That's crazy work. Literally. Verse 47. And he made gods of wood and stone, and he bowed down to them, and he rebelled against Jehovah, and taught all his subjects and the people of the earth his wicked ways. And his son Mardon was more wicked than his father. And everyone that heard the acts of Mardon, the son of Nimrod, would say concerning him, from the wicked goes out wickedness. Worse. Worse a lot of times, right? Therefore it became a proverb in the whole earth, saying, from the wicked goes out wickedness, and it was current in the words of men from that time to this. And Terah, the son of Nahor, prince of Nimrod's host, was in those days very great in the sight of the king and his subjects, and the king and princes loved him, and they elevated him very high. And Terah took a wife, her name was Amthelo, the daughter of Cornebo, and the wife of Terah conceived and bore him a son in those days. Start to sound familiar, right? Terah was 70 years old when he begot him, and Terah called the name of his son that was born to him, Abram. For every Nimrod, there's an Abram. For every Nimrod, there comes an Abraham to get things back in order, to start kicking some stuff around, throwing some stuff about, right? For those that are familiar with that story, right? Shalom, shalom, Brother Cole. Because the king had raised him in those days and dignified him above all his princes that were with him, right? As we go into chapter 8, talking about Abram now. So as there was a Nimrod, there's an Abraham. There's a bringing back. Yet again, as it's repeated, there's a going out, there's a growth, and then there's a coming back. We'll see right here, Abram, later Abraham. We'll see how that goes about for him, right? We'll probably start off with that part next week. So chapter 8, and it was during the night that Abram was born, that all the servants of Terah, his father, and all the wise men of Nimrod, Terah's ruler, and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terah, and they rejoiced with him on that night. And when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted up their eyes towards the heavens, towards the Shamayams. And that night to look at the stars, and they saw, and behold, one very large star came from the east, Salah, and ran in the heavens, and he swallowed up the 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens of the Shamayams. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight, and the sages understood that matter, and they knew its meaning. And they said to each other, this only signifies that the child that has been born to Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth, all Arat, he and his children forever. And he and his seed will slay great kings and inherit their lands. Salah. That's a lot. Verse 5, and the wise men and conjurers went home that night. And in the rising, all these wise men and conjurers rose up early and assembled in an appointed house. And they spoke and said to each other, behold, the sight that we saw last night is hidden from the king. It has not been made known to him. And should this thing get known to the king in the latter days, he will say to us, why have you concealed this matter from me? And then we will all suffer death, right? Therefore now let us go and tell the king the sight which we saw and the interpretation thereof, and we will then remain clear, right? Hands clean. And they did so, and they all went to the king and bowed down to him to the ground, and they said, may the king live, may the king live. We heard that the son was born to Terah, son of Nahor, right? Prince of your host. And last night we came to his house, and we ate and drank and rejoiced with him that night. And when your servants went out from the house of Terah to go to our respective homes to abide there for the night, we lifted up our eyes to the Shamayams, to the heavens, and we saw a great star coming from the east. And the star ran with the great speed and swallowed up 4 great stars from the 4 sides of the heavens, from the 4 corners of Arat, or Shamayams, right? Shamayams. And your servants were astonished at the sight which we saw, and we were greatly terrified, and we made our judgment on the sight, and knew by our wisdom the proper interpretation thereof, that this thing applies to the child that is born to Terah, who will grow up and multiply greatly and become powerful, and off all the kings of Arat, those that think they rule this world, and inherit all their lands, he and his seed forever. And now, our Lord, or Adonai, dear King, behold, we have truly acquainted you with what we have seen concerning this child. And if it seems to the king to give his father value for this child, we will slay him before he will grow up and increase in the land, and this evil increase against us, that we and our children perish through this evil. And the king heard their words, and they seemed righteous in his sight, in his fleshly courage. And he sent and called for Terah, and Terah came before the king. The king said to Terah, I have been told that a son was born to you last night, and after this matter was observed in the heavens at his birth, in the Shamayams at his birth, right? And now, therefore, give me the child that we may slay him, right? Hold on one second. I didn't go anywhere. I'm reading forward a little bit. Okay. Now we're gonna keep on going. It's just some things led not to get too deep into. So basically, he was trying to get the son, right? They didn't want Abraham to be Abraham, pretty much. And it says, and Terah answered the king, read verse 17. He said, my Lord and King, I have heard your words, and your servant would do all that his king desires. But my Lord and King, I will tell you what happened to me last night, that I may see what advice the king will give his servant. And then I will answer the king of what he has spoken. And the king said, speak, right? And Terah said to the king, Aon, son of Mored, came to me last night, saying, give to me the great and beautiful horse that the king gave you, and I will give you silver and gold and straw and provender for his value. And I said to him, wait until I see the king concerning your words, and behold, whatever the king says, that I will do. And now, my king, behold, I have made this thing known to you, and the advice which my king will give to his servant, that I will follow. And the king heard the words of Terah, and his anger was kindled, and he considered him in the manner of a fool. And the king answered Terah and said to him, Are you so silly, ignorant, or deficient in understanding to do this thing, to give your beautiful horse for silver and gold, or even for straw and provender? Y'all catch this. This is a great analogy. So he said, "Hey, this dude told me to he wanted to trade me for my horse. He's gonna give me gold, silver, and straw." King said, "Are you a fool for thinking that?" Verse 24: Are you so short of silver and gold that you should do this thing, because you cannot obtain straw and provender to feed your horse, even though you have silver and gold, right? And what is silver and gold to you, or straw and provender, that you should give away that fine horse which I gave you, like which there is none to be had on the whole earth? And the king left off speaking, and Terah answered the king and said, Like to this the king has spoken to his servant. I implore you, what is this which you have said to me, saying, Give me your son, that we may slay him, and I will give you silver and gold for his value? What will I do with silver and gold after losing my son? Who will inherit me? Surely then at my death the silver and gold will return to my king who gave it. And when the king heard the words of Terah, huh? Yeah. Come on now. He's like, hey, I got you. I got something better for you. Right? And, and when the king heard the words, verse 27, heard the words of Terah and the allegory which he brought concerning the king, it grieved him greatly, and he was vexed at this thing, and his anger burned within him. And Terah saw the anger of the king was kindled against him, and he answered the king, saying, All that I have is in the king's power. Whatever the king desires to do to his servant, and let him do. Yes, even my son. He is in the king's power. Without value in exchange, he and his two brothers are older than he. And the king said to Terah, No, but I will purchase your younger son for a price. Right? Basically, after that, Terah said, No, you're not. There was a messed up thing that occurred. Basically, it wasn't Abraham that was given up, right? So, go down to chapter 9, okay? This should be fine. All right. Chapter 9, and Haran, the son of Terah, right? Abram's oldest brother, okay? Took a wife in those days. Haran was 39 years old when he took her. And the wife of Haran conceived and bore a son and called his name Lot. Right? We'll see how we get into that story. But before we get any further than that, just to cover what we got so far. So we have Nimrod being Nimrod. Nimrod was of the Most High, sacrificing to the Most High, leading people in the ways of the Most High, until he got puffed up. Until he saw that people were listening to him. Until he saw that that there was something that he could get away with. He tried to cover it up. We're saying this is all about Yah, but no, it's really about what you want to do in that situation. Magnifying disbelief, right? That's essentially what that is. Again, along comes Abraham, ordained to be so. Yahweh going to have that fixed, just like with the flood. But he said he wouldn't do that again, right? Abram comes about. Shalom, Sister Akia, comes about, and he already starts off with a rough life. You know, shalom, brother TJ. Father's peace be upon you. Shalom, Barak. So there's a lot going on already. But Abraham shows righteous courage, right? That's what we get into right here. He goes through a lot of things. He goes through the same things as Nimrod. Nimrod saw the power of what he had. He made up these things to be worshipped, even though he knew who the Most High was, right? He was raised on it. But he caused confusion. But the wool doesn't cover everybody's eye. In context, y'all know that saying. There's always somebody that's going to go through it and go through trials, go through the stumble of realizing or trying to think this, and this, so that way they're able to tell other people, right? We'll see that in Abram right now going through. So where we at? Lot. Verse 3, and she conceived again and bore a daughter, and she called her name Milcah. And she again conceived and bore a daughter, and she called her name Sarai. Haran was 42 years old when he begot Sarai, which was the 10th year of the life of Abram. And in those days, Abram and his mother and nurse went out from the cave, and the king and his subjects had forgotten the affair of Abram. Right? So they forgot all about what they were trying to do about with Terah's son. Right? They forgot all about it. And when Abram, verse 5, when Abram came out the cave, he went to Noah and his son Shem. All right? And he remained with them to learn the instruction of Yahweh and his ways. And no man knew where Abram was. And Abram served Noah and his son Shem for a long time. And Abram was in Noah's house 39 years, and Abram knew Yahweh from 3 years old, and he went in the ways of Yahweh until the day of his death. And Noah and his son Shem had taught him, and all the sons of the earth, and in those days greatly transgressed against Yahweh, and they rebelled against him, and they served other gods, and they forgot Yahweh who had created them in the earth. And at that time the inhabitants of the earth, each man made for themselves his god, gods of wood and stone, which would neither speak, nor hear, nor deliver. And the sons of men served them and became their gods, right? So right there, a whole lot right there. A whole lot right there. We're talking about the culture yet again being brought back up. This chapter includes Jubilees, when the language is given back to them, right? In the name of the authority, the same language that Noah and Shem had, the same house that it comes from, right? So make sure that we're remembering to correlate that at the same time too as we're reading. Let's keep going. Verse 7, and the king and all his servants and Terah with all his household were then the first of those that served gods of wood and stone, right? And Terah had 12 gods of large size made of wood and stone, and after the 12th month of the year, he had served each one monthly. Every month Terah would bring his meat offering and drink offerings unto the idols. Because I don't like keep saying that word. Thus Terah did all the days, and that whole generation was wicked in the sight of Yahweh, and they thus made every man his idol, but they forsook Yahweh and created them. And there was no man found in those days in the whole earth who knew Yahweh, for they each served his own idol, except Noah and his household, and all those that were under his counsel knew Yahweh in those days. Right? And Abram, son of Terah, was waxing great in those days in the house of Noah, and no man knew it. And Yahweh was with him. And Yahweh gave Abram an understanding heart, right? So, at this point, there's a work happening in Abram. There's a realization of the culture of Noah and Shem going on in Abram. A realization again, because again, not everybody believed what Nimrod was trying to say, but everybody knew it the Most High, right? There was a work happening. What did it say? It's Psalms 26. There was a judgment. There it is. There's a judgment. There's a judgment happening there. For a work, for a will, for a way. There was a deciding between righteous courage and fleshly courage. There could have been a lot that Abram could have went with this at this point. But that something vexed him. Something bothered him. So we're going to read that now. Verse 12. And Yahweh gave Abram an understanding heart, and he knew all the works of that generation were vain. Right? And all their idols were vain and were of no avail. So in that time, however long that time period was, Abram was given an understanding heart. He was given the way and the ability to be righteous in courage when dealing with the heart, because the heart can be deceitful, right? And he knew all the works of that generation were vain, and all their idols were vain and were of no avail. And Abram saw the sun shining on the earth, right? So Abram starts questioning. He says something ain't right. He's trying to understand some things with some questions, right? He's going to stumble a little bit, but he's going to come across the answer and destroy disbelief, right? And Abram said to himself, surely now, he saw the sun shining on earth, verse 13. And Abram said to himself, surely now this sun that shines on the earth is Elohim, and I will serve him, right? And Abram served the sun in that day, and he prayed to him. And when the evening came, the sun set as usual. And Abram said within himself, surely this can't be Elohim. And Abram still continued to speak within himself, who is he that made the Shamayams at Arat? Who created on earth? Where is he? And night darkened over him, right? And he lifted up his eyes toward the west, north, south, and east, and he saw that the sun had vanished from the earth, and the day became dark. And Abram saw the stars and moon before him, and he said, surely this is the Elohim who created the whole earth as well as man. And behold, these servants are of idols around him. And Abram served the moon and prayed to it all that night. And in the rising, when it was light and the sun shone on the earth as usual, Abram saw all the things that Yahweh Elohim had made on earth. And Abram said to himself, surely these are not the idols that, or the guys that made the earth and all mankind, but these are the servants of Elohim, right? And Abram remained in the house of Noah, and there knew Yahweh and his ways, right? He stayed in the way of the Most High. And he served Yahweh all the days of his life. And all that generation forgot Yahweh. Much like what happened in Kemet later on, right? And then that generation forgot Yahweh and served other idols of wood and stone and rebelled in all their days. And King Nimrod, all because of that guy. He reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was of one tongue and words of union, right? So we're about Genesis chapter 10, 11. I think we're about to hit 11 right now. Yeah, chapter 11 of Genesis is where we're about to hit, right? Don't forget Yah once he has delivered you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't forget Yah once he has delivered you. Yeah. You can't forget it. You can't forget that Yahweh is the one giving you that realization. You can't forget that all right, this ain't it. So let me search for the right thing. Right? Where are we at? Verse King Nimrod reigned securely, all the earth was under control. One tongue, one you. Yep. Boom. Verse 21. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together. Phut, Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan with their families, right? And they said to each other, come, let us build ourselves a city and a strong tower in it. So now we're getting to that tower, right? And its top reaching the Shamayams, reaching the heavens, right? And we will make ourselves famous so that we may reign over the whole world, over the whole system, right? Just stuck out then. Here it says world. Many times it said earth. So even then, they're admitting a difference, right? In order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, right? That we may reign mightily over them, that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars, right? And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words, and the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men, and they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower. And they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like the one in the valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk. And they journeyed there, and they dwelt there, and they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower. I'm sorry, I laugh at myself sometimes when that happens. Oh man. To build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete, right? And the buildings of the tower was a transgression and a sin for them, right? It was missing the mark. It was literally building another mark, right? Um, and they began to build it. Shalom, shalom, sis. And they began to build it. And while they were building against the Yahweh Elohim of Shamayim, against the righteous direction of Yahweh of the heavens and the earth, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into Shamayim. And all these people and all the families divided themselves in three parts. The first said, we will ascend into Shamayim and fight against him. The second said, we will ascend into Shamayim and place our own idols there and serve him. And the third part said, we will ascend to Shamayim and strike him with bows and spears. And Elohim knew all their works, of course, right? And all their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, and the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it until those who went up and completed a full year. And after that, they reached to the builders and gave them mortar and bricks. Thus it was done daily. So this is describing the massiveness of this tower that they're building, right? It says it took a whole year for them to reach the builders in their ascent and going down, right? Now that's where it kind of gets my mind, because nowadays it's kind of hard to imagine that, right? But things were different. It was a great tower. It would kind of be cool to know the schematics of it. But a great tower that they were trying to build to reach the Most High is essentially what's happening here, right? Verse 28, and behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they will all weep over it. And if a man fell and no longer lived, none of them would look at him. And Yahweh knew their thoughts, and it came to pass when they were building, they cast their arrows towards the Shamayims, and all the arrows fell on them with blood. And when they saw them, they said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in Shamayim. For this was from Yahweh in order to cause them to err, and in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground, right? Stumble them. And they built the tower in the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed. Verse 32, and Elohim said to the 70 messengers who stood foremost before him, to those who were near him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man will not understand the language of his neighbor. So basically, saying here, Yahweh sent messengers. Again, be careful with your discernment of how you're reading things, because, this is a passed down story, generation to generation, right? This was a verbal giving, in the beginning, before it was, while it was written down at the same time. But remember, these are verbal givings, right? So be careful your discernment. Verify it when you're reading, right? So you're able to know the difference and not get too caught up in the story plot. You know what I'm saying? So basically, Elohim sent messengers to confuse the language of the people, right? And verse 33, and from that day following, they each forgot his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took lime or stone from the hands of his neighbor, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it on his neighbor, that he would no longer live. Verse 34, and they did so many days, and they off many of them in this manner. And Yahweh struck the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, we will ascend to Shamayim and serve our idols, became like apes and elephants. And those who said, we will strike the heavens with arrows, Yahweh off them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division who said, we will ascend into Shamayim and fight against him, Yahweh scattered them throughout Arad. And when those who were left among them knew and understood the calamity which was coming on them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered on the face of Arad, right? And I know that part about apes and elephants probably stuck out, huh? As we come to a close. We're probably going to start in chapter 10 next week. Because I want to study that some more and go into it some more. But yeah, we're gonna stop here today. Oh, okay, it's 157. That'll work. Um, but yeah, that when I first read that too, right? It said, those who said we will ascend into Shamayam and serve our idols became like apes and elephants. And I'm like, well, first off, I know the people ain't get turned into no apes and elephants, right? So therefore, what does that mean? That means it's time to do some research, okay? Um, that means it's time to see what they really mean by that. All right, I sure did because I wasn't leaving it there. Um, let's see. So again, this is not literally meaning Yahweh turned them into apes and elephants, but it's the characteristics of apes and elephants, right? That's going on. Both can be stubborn, strong-willed, and fleshly courage, holding on in pride and flesh when there was work going on, right? There we go. See, right? So this analogy, what it's showing is that there was a blend in direction, right? Righteous direction and wicked direction, right? But you're going to eat what you sow. You're going to reap what you sow, essentially, right? Um, it's implying that one's mixing with the other, right? One's contradicting the other when mixed. So when it's talking about we will ascend to Shamayam and serve our idols, that's not going to happen. But it's two different things that are going on here, all right? It's like a water and oil concept, right? To create confusion according to their works and their design and their choices, based off how they were acting in their soul is what they reaped, right? So elephants, looking up just a few things about elephants, even though they are very smart, there are other things and characteristics of these, right? But here, looking in the context, because context is important, right? So we're gonna put that here, just studying, right? This is all this is, just some study time, and for me to talk y'all ears off. But again, people come up at the end. Just in case it's something that you might bring up, might be like, hey, did you know about this? It might not. Did you think about this? You know, this is time for that. But let me finish this off right here. Elephants, they're strong in the mind and body, right? But they may refuse to leave a certain spot, right? Even when presented with potential threats when it's time to move with the herd. Some, in aggression, because they can get quite aggressive, become strong in refusal to back down in situations that they should, right? Defiance, right? But elephants are artistic. They're known for manipulating their trunks. It's very intricate. They can do things and feel things in a different way, right? Emphasizing what elephants are able to create with their intelligence, right? They were able to do things and come together with one language in one way, but they manipulated it for another work, right? Elephants are also highly skilled tool users, right? Teaching their young to do the same, right? Apes, talk about that. They're also strong in the mind and body, right? Exhibit stubborn or resistant behavior when challenged by other members of their group, but they stay in that same spot. So essentially what Yahweh did said, all right, y'all gonna act like that? Y'all gonna be definitely stuck right there and keep on fighting and bickering amongst each other, trying to do this thing that y'all know y'all can't do, but you don't want to move with the herd, but y'all gonna stay here. You see how all this comes together? When challenged by other members of their group, meaning constantly combative. This is what they're given now. Constant, right? Apes and elephants are highly intelligent, both highly intelligent, but their fleshly courage can get in the way of hearing things, and that's what they're going to have to live with, right? That's what they're going to have to fight from. But knowing them, they're not going to budge from that spot, even in danger. Even when the herd is going that way and this way, they're going to stay right there in that spot, right? What else? Yeah, but they're highly intelligent, but easily altered, right? In a rapid movement, like they lose control. But if you lose control, to gain control was never there in the first place. Control being Yahweh, right? So all that intelligence became fleshly courage. All of this, right? All in all, is linked to social structures and decision-making process, right? When these apes and elephants, all this is surrounding that. It's surrounding social structures, social consequences, and a decision-making process, right? See, like you gotta bring all this together. You know, when that ear itch, figure out why it's itching. You know, but there's still more. That's just what Ravak revealed to me. And as I know, you know, especially with the righteous counsel that I am blessed to have around me, you know, and y'all and all of y'all, you know, there's some things, especially with sis, like Shantae, she'll be hitting me with some things. I'm like, how did you see that? You know, I'm thinking I got something heavy, and here you go. But I love that. I need that because it's fine tuning. We don't always get the whole plate. There's nobody that always gets the whole plate. And that's just Sis Shantae for an example. You know, Big Brother SJ, LaCrystal, Big Brother Darius. I see you over there dropping some bars. What is it? Papa G. He be dropping bars and stuff like that, and I'll read all of them. I might not respond to everything, but I see it, and it marinates with me. And sometimes, like me and Big Brother be talking, sometimes it's just like you got to take a second and let it marinate. And by the time it marinates, it sends me in a direction, and I forget to say thank you. So ta-da, right? Iron sharpening iron. That part. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. Let's see. I'm making sure that's about it. Easily off to the process, flesh the courage. Oh, this is a reminder to listen to the action, but give it to Yah, right? Been in Jasper for months. The Ravak has confirmed a lot with me and him. Oh, all praise to the Most High Yah. Hey. Yeah, because sometimes you read some stuff and it be like, I might be tripping. But no, it's like that. But you still got to coincide things. Just like knowing how when they say names and places of things, it's like they're talking about the house of things. Not literally with them per se, right? But yes, per se. You know, so that's why it's great to kind of see it there. All praise Jah. As long as he lets me be able to do it. Oh, Titi Michelle, shalom. When we come together and speak on what Ravak has revealed to receive confirmation. That part. That's the thing. It destroys disbelief. One accord. Yeah, it's powerful scroll, Bruder. Like, powerful. But you got to be careful because just like a lot of things have been touched over time. So that's a lot what they try to throw against us for an argument. But it's like if you have that discernment, you'll be just fine. Just like these different versions of the scroll, there's different revealings and different ones. But make sure you get the basis message. Make sure you're studying these things and questioning these things because some things have been added, just like in Jasher, in the apocryphal books as they call them. When you see those words in brackets, that means they're added there. Just like in the Bible, the 66 books, right? It's they're italicized. You see, so it's different things that you got to kind of catch on to. But again, all in all, it brings you back. Let him tell you how to construct things. Let Yah tell you how to construct things. Yeah, all praise to Yah for his truth and being able to walk in his marvelous light. Wisdom seeks to dwell in those who seek her. That's it. Oh man, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Most High, the respect of the Most High, right? That's the beginning of wisdom. The Most High sends that Ravak, and that wisdom is wisdom, and I'm telling you, and it's timely. I'm grateful for it. As we all figure out our roles in this, pretty much, I think that's it. I mean, yeah, they called the place Babel. Yeah, and people lost their lives in that tower. That's essentially what happened there at the end anyway. So, yeah, all in all, like get in tune with your part, your role, and what Yahweh has for you, right? Just like for every Nimrod, there's an Abraham. For every this, there's a that. There's a role for it. Everything works in reactive processes, right? But don't be shifted by the majority, and don't let your last thought be madness. That's the two things that's really been in my mind with this: admit stumbling, destroying disbelief, right? Not to be shifted by the majority, unless they my peers, right? Y'all know what I mean, right? Turn flesh with Yah, the potter. That part. That part. If you toss and turn with it, give it a Yah. You know? And I feel like that's about it. I mean, yeah, I feel that's about it. If anybody would like to come up real quick, I know Oh, we'll see. Matter of fact, Big Brother per usual. If you want to send your request up, or I'll get you in a second. Um, yeah, give it all to y'all. If anybody got anything to add, anybody, brother, sister, Akoti, Ahea, Maisha Paka. Um, that's about it. That's all I got. Let's see. Oh, you beat me to it. Boom, boom. Accept. There we go. How big a shot, Uncle Big Bruder? All praise to the Most High. Shalom, Big Bruder.
Yeah, shalom, baby Bruder. Great word. Yes, sir. What we say, we please, man. You got to learn to relax. Relax. What if you say, don't overthink it? You got this, right?
Yep.
So, my quick little deal we gonna add, because we ain't gonna hold everybody in here, right? The biggest thing that you said was don't be your own stumbling block. Don't cause your own self to outthink yourself. Like, yeah, we've been talking about this all week. You knew what today was, so you know you ain't want to deal with that, and you knew I was gonna be on you. So somewhere in it is, yeah, we gonna hold each other accountable. So you did y'all some, you fed us, and we're grateful, right?
Yes,
and like we keep saying, we we got this. Big we is us. That's it. Not too much. Real light. Some real light.
That's it. You doing your live today?
Yes, sir. We finna go. That's why I said we was gonna keep it light. We ready. We in position today. We going.
That part. Yeah, praise and to die for you, real Big Brother, because I'm telling you that crossed my mind. Cause I'm like, no offense. I'm like, bro, I don't wanna hear Big Brother on me about this. Cause I know what he gonna say. I already know what he gonna say. I ain't trying to hear it. So let me go ahead and turn on this live and find some music.
Man, I love you so much. You continue to keep on doing what you're doing. You hear me? You encourage us not only to study for ourselves, but you encourage us to hear our voice, which is not our voice, it's Papa's voice. It's and like we say, not just us, but certain people check in on us. They encourage and they show up. Ahava is an action. That's what we've been taught. So let's do that. Let's show up. Let's continue to do what we're doing, because other people are seeing it and it shows. It's not about us, but it includes us. The big we is us, right? No one man above the mob. That's it. Now I'm part of the
Hey, I was over here standing up, man. You right on it. You right on it. Like that's the thing too, man. Purpose, you can't be blocking, because you gonna get up here and you could be. That's the thing that kept crossing my mind. Is like, you know what? I got this thing about the stumbling block, and here I am being a stumbling block. There's something that can be shown through this, you know. Not to boost nobody up, but it's something that helped me. And that's my testimony, because next time I said, well, I did it this time, I'll be able to do it next time. And
come on.
that part.
Come on. Come on. Message. Come on.
That part. We ain't gonna unless anybody else wanna come up, I'm about to pray it out, and we're gonna matter of fact, let me get some excuse pulled up. If anybody else wanna, you got anything else you got to add, Big Brother?
No, sir. Nope. Just be in position. Like we always say. That's it. I'm gonna mic up. Why do we keep doing that? I'm gonna mute up, and we gonna pray out, and I'm gonna go ahead and head to the basement, because we gonna see if we can get on that treadmill today. I feel like we was led, so I'm as we pray out, I'm gonna head to the basement.
Yes, sir. Well, that's following the course. Let us go ahead and pray out. However, we come before you again. Just to say to die for the beginning of this. For hearing my prayer and allowing me to still push through it. And strengthening me. And keeping the wisdom and keeping the flesh off the word. You know, and keeping you on my mind. And for a moment, I did try to keep looking away, but praise y'all that there's a pulling back too when we're trying to go away from. And as we are noticing our stumbling blocks and removing the disbelief as we fight through them things, and make sure that it's a strong laying of foundation, that you take these things and make them stepping stones and keep us going through these things, and realizing that there's a way and a purpose and a know-how and a know-to go through and to get how we're supposed to do this thing. I want to thank you for my family for coming around, for being there through all this, and as we continue to go forward, many blessings and protection as you are protecting us as we go about our ways. And whenever next time we see each other, we will make sure that you come first, no matter what. With all love, for you are love, for you are action, for you are reason, for everything. And that's why we got to keep going, because you gave us a reason for everything. And that's in your Sham, Sham Yahaba, Asham Yahashpai, Asham Rak Akwadash, Aman, Aman, and Aman. All right. Oh, here we go. I was looking for this song for the last 2 weeks, and apparently it was supposed to be for today. Finally, y'all know this ain't Hezekiah, but this one right here. This one hits. So yeah, let's go ahead and send our shout outs to everybody, and let's get ready for the next thing.
I see you in the night. You're the breath of my life, shining pure and bright. I see it. I breathe you in and I breathe you out. It's the air that I breathe. It's the air. If you turn away from me, I fall out. He's everything, He's everything that I need. You're everything that I need. Yeah, it's the air. Yeah, it's the air that I breathe. In the darkest valley, when I can't see my way, you're the air around me. You push the clouds of doubt away. Every time I stumble, you lift me when I fall. You're the breath that saves me, and I need you most of all. I see it. You're the air that I breathe. I see it. Fall apart. He's everything. Oh, he's everything. He's everything that I am. Free breath, I feel your love flow through me like the skies above. You're the pulse, the reason I survive. With you, Yahuwah, I come alive. Oh, I feel your love flow through me like the skies above. You're the pulse, the reason I survive. With you, Yahuwah, I come alive. Yahuwah, see it. You're the air that I breathe. You're the air that I breathe. Yahuwah, see air that I breathe. Yahuwah, see it. Take away from me and I fall apart. He's everything. He's everything. He's everything everything, yeah, he's everything. He's everything, he is everything. He's the air that I breathe.
Armand. Great listening with y'all. Yeah, that's about it. That's about all we have, fam. I'm gonna get on Big Buddha's live. I'll see y'all. See whoever's able to slide through. I'll see y'all over there. Continue being great. Continuing speaking through your testimony, because that's all a stumble is. It's just the beginning, but it's not the end. Keep on being obedient, because if not, somebody gonna get on you anyway, right? But Yahweh is love. Yeah, that's it. Till next time, fam.